What's going on? We back, Motor City Sports Talk, back talking some Detroit Lions, and apparently they gave Bob Quinn, general manager from New England, an extension. And we know the Lions are very private about contract extensions and everything else they trying to hide, from the local media and overall the big media. For some reason, the Lions have been very, very secretive, especially under Tom Lawine and Martin Mayhew. I mean, I really never really figured that part out, because eventually the truth will come to the light. And why they all secret, all secret about things and stuff of that nature. Like, they are the platinum standard and they are a upper echelon organization, but that's the way they operate. The extension is said to be in the same length as Matt Patricia, so they be able to work together, and it be security for both of those guys. As well. I definitely agree on extending him as long as Matt Patricia, because they're tied at the hip now. Obviously he only extended Caldwell for a year or something like that. I don't think it was a long time. But obviously him and Patricia are joint at the hip now. And this is the guy that he wanted. Maybe with Jim Caldwell he was able to finesse old Martha. Like, this ain't the guy I wanted. I think Martha was the one that wanted Jim Caldwell to stay with the team. Caldwell was definitely a very class act. He was a take the high road type of guy, and it'd be interesting to see what type of guy Matt Patricia is. But I'm not mad at this deal with Bob Quinn. Some people are upset, but it makes sense. He gets the extension with his new head coach, because this is like his real era starting now. I truly believe that Martha Ford, the owner, made him, retain Caldwell. And Caldwell had one of the best winning, records in Detroit Lions modern day history. But like I said, numbers could be deceiving, and he couldn't win those big games, and he couldn't get the Lions to the playoffs, and he made a lot of, poor management decisions in the game. He didn't manage the game the way he should have, especially with a guy that has a track record of being the head coach somewhere else. But to talk about Bob Quinn, I mean, he hasn't did bad in the draft. A lot of people were mad that Tease Tabor, didn't get it, that fast. That was a big that was a big thing for some people, man. About Tease Tabor. But they got to understand, like, corners, that's a hard position to transition to, And Tease Tabor is on track to be number 2 corner next year. For people who don't know, and Jamal Agnew is also, they said maybe started the nickel corner. So if that's true, he got 2 starters outside the first round right there. Jared Davis, he didn't play up to the standards that I thought he would early on. After the Odell Beckham injury, he wasn't right. I mean, Taylor Decker was a good pick by him. I mean, he made a lot of good draft picks. You know what I'm saying? Kenny Galladay, I think with another year on the elite level in the NFL coming from Northern Illinois, I think his body would be more acclimated. He'd be more ready to deal with the physicality of the NFL. And I like what he's done in the draft. He scored and hit with some starters and some good productive players. He found a kick returner at Agnew that we hadn't had a good kick returner in quite some time. So he's made the right moves. Now we're going to see what type of dude he is with all this cap space with free agency. And I think now his era begins. As funny as it may sound, it does. I think he has control over, personnel now, that he didn't with Caldwell. I think him and Caldwell clashed on what type of players and the vision of the team, because obviously Caldwell's from that Tony Dungy tree, and Bob Quinn is from that New England tree, and he wants his organization to mirror that, but kind of molded in him and Patricia's image. So I think now that he's starting to be on the clock now. And I know it sounds a little funny for some people, but I think it's now he's on the clock with this extension, with the coach that he wants, the coaching staff that his coach wants, and he chose to retain Jim Bob Cooter out of all the coordinators. He chose to bring in a defensive guy when he could have. Maybe he didn't like Josh McDaniels. You see what McDaniels did. That would have been a big blemish on his record if he would have went after Josh McDaniels and McDaniels turned around and went to New England. So obviously he chose the right guy. We're gonna see the 2 things that may be scrutinized the most. And he don't get that scapegoat. He don't get that pass. This can't be a scapegoat. It's retaining Eric Ebron and retaining GM Bob Quinn. And those two moves are going to be scrutinized by him if they don't work out. Because it could be seen as setting the franchise back a little bit, especially with GM Bob Quinn, when you could have went out and got an offensive coordinator yourself, when everybody knew, or everybody's believing, that GM Bob Quinn sucks as offensive coordinator, And Quinn is watching the same thing that we're watching on tape. The inability to run the ball, the redundant play calls, the lack of run success, the lack of usage with Golden taking the slot and really being creative until, the last game of the year. And a lot of things they can put on the offensive line, they can. But, we'll see. We'll see. They must believe in GM Bob Quinn and Eric Ebron. A lot of people want to forget about Eric Ebron's critical drops. And they want to praise the fact that he did good at the end of the season. And I must remind you guys, he did good at the end of the season, but guess what? It was no pressure on him. When the playoffs not on the line, or it really ain't no pressure for you, it was no pressure on him. Of course, he caught the ball well and did some things. At the end of the day, I would have got rid of Eric Ebron. But I'm saying those was his the two people that he kept to retain that he could have got rid of. He didn't do that. So if it comes back to bite him in the hindsight, I don't hear no excuses from this guy on that. Those are my two gripes with him. But obviously it wasn't his fault that Ndamukong Suh walked out. He wasn't here yet, and we'll see. We'll see. I have no problem with him getting an extension. Him and Patricia, like I said, I'll remain neutral on the Patricia hire. Quinn, I think he done a good job, and I think he got a vision in upgrading the talent. He's upgraded the team. Yes, the defense lacks some names and lacks some upgrades in the front seven, but he got a ton of cap space, and he got minimum holes on the offensive side of the ball. And I believe his minimum holes is obviously, left guard if he moves Glasgow to center and let Swanson walk. In the run game, if he's able to get a run game, it improves his defense and his offense, and special team with field position and stuff of that nature. It changes the game. So if he fixed that, he should be good. And a ton of money to fix the front seven. But let me know what y'all think about this. We out.